It has officially been one whole month of a no-buy month. During this month, I have tracked all of my essentials, groceries, extras, gas, eating out, you name it. I have gathered all of my findings and I am here to report back how it went. If you missed my part 1 to this video where I went through half of January and I tracked everything and gave you guys the update, I will link that above for you guys to check out. Now we're talking finale. I have to say, I'm very pleased with how the second half of January went. The first half, after adding up everything, I was really concerned. I was like, oh my lord, my spending is out of control, particularly on things like eating out. Groceries were really crazy expensive. And then we did some other like random side quests earlier in the month that added up. And I don't think we realized how much all of that was until we started tracking everything and I realized, oh, we did 2 fairly large projects that are not inexpensive. So with that being said, I'm very happy with how the second half of January went. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is all the spending from the first half of January. Like I said, it was a lot of money. But to update those numbers, I only have 3 categories to add to, which is food, 1 thing for entertainment, and groceries. Starting with the biggest of the 3, which is groceries. For the second half of January, we spent a lot of money on groceries. The only thing that changed in the second half of January that may have contributed to how expensive our groceries became was I had surgery on January 20th. So there was a lot of prep work that needed to happen. And there wasn't a lot I could eat since I had to kind of change my diet to basically only liquid food. So I ate a bunch of canned soup. I ate protein shakes, body armor drinks to help with electrolytes, and applesauce, and little gummies and jellos and things like that. So a lot of those prepackaged foods are usually not things I think we would bake into our grocery list, which is maybe why this is so expensive. At the end of the day, we spent a grand total of $695.90 on groceries. That feels like a lot of money for groceries, but at the end of the day, that's just is what it is. That was our food. I don't think any of it went to waste. We did eat it, we did consume it, or it's shelf stable and it will last us a lot longer. So I'm not mad about it, but is it a lot? Yes, it's definitely a lot. So add that number to our original grocery number of $323, $1,018.95, which if you divide that upon the 5 weeks that are in January, it's about $200 a week on groceries. That's not too bad. I'm not mad about it, but it does add up. The next thing on this list that will add to our grand total at the end of the day is food. How much money we spent eating out for the last half of the month. And that number is $272.31. Add that to our original number of $132 leads us to $403.03. Again, a number I'm not too mad about. In fact, my husband and I sat down and we were discussing what our budget looks like for the year. And we agreed that $200 a week or so is pretty good for eating out. And I feel like that number is really good. Honestly, it's way under budget than what we originally planned for. So I'm happy with that. The last thing I have to add to my list is an entertainment. Obviously, as I was in recovery, there were a couple times I was so bored and just looking for something new to do, including my husband. He was like, I'm so bored. And I was like, me too, I can't get off the couch. But what we could do was buy a new game to play together on the Nintendo Switch. So we did. We bought a game, we bought Wobbly Life, which if you have not played, I really like it. It's really fun. And that game was $22.79. Add that to our extras category, and that brings our total to $500.73. And that is everything additional that we spent for the last half of the month, which honestly is not too bad. I definitely thought that number was going to be a lot higher, but maybe it worked in my favor that I was in recovery for 2 weeks and couldn't really get off the couch. Seeing a visual like this really makes me think and understand where my money is going, because I do think all too often we don't pay too close of attention to how we're spending our money and looking at things in a big picture like this. I definitely feel like for some of the extras and home projects and things like that that we spent money on this month, maybe in the future I'll maybe plan accordingly and put 1 project per month this year instead of doubling up and doing more than 1 house project in the month. That's a great way to distribute my money a little bit more evenly rather than stacking things on top of each other. So as far as a no-buy month goes, obviously I didn't not buy anything. The grand total of the amount of money that was spent for extra things this month was $2,318. Now, a lot of that stuff was unavoidable. Things like grocery, though there was a lot of extras included. I had paying for my ice skating hobby. I had house projects that we ended up doing this month. So as far as not spending anything, no. That's kind of impossible if you think about it, but seeing everything laid out like this and seeing a visual representation of how I'm spending my money does make me feel more cognizant of how I'm going to be spending it in the future. So was it a perfect no-buy month? Not really. Obviously, we spent some money on things that are not considered essential items, but am I okay with it? Yeah, I'm pretty okay with how this month went. I feel like I have a lot of takeaways from this month. Personally, I just didn't realize how much money I was spending on things like home projects and home decor, all these little extras that end up adding up together. And then of course, there were some extenuating circumstances like buying some resources and things to help with my surgery, which made for more expensive groceries and also made for a couple of extra things like a heating pad and ice packs that we didn't own before, but they came in handy while I was recovering and we're most likely to use those things again anyways. So yeah, I think I'm okay with it. Okay, so now that we've gone through how the last half of my no-buy went, I want to give you guys some of my tips that I found really helpful when going through the month. So here are my 5 tips to have a successful no-buy or low-buy challenge, whether you're doing a month or a week or a year. The first thing to do is figure out what matters. What are the things to you that feel the most important, that you feel like you get the most value of whenever you spend money on it? Spending money is not a bad thing, but knowing where you're spending your money and being intentional with what you're getting out of it, now that is important. So if you find yourself constantly impulse buying or feeling like you're missing out unless you buy extra things like skincare products or body care, whatever that vice might be for you, sometimes you just gotta realize those things don't actually add value to your life and you're wasting money by spending so much money on it. So get out a pen and paper, write down what are the things that matter to you. And that may be different depending on who you're talking to. That leads me to number 2. So take everything from tip number 1, figuring out what matters, and 2, set some rules and set some expectations. If you're going into a no-buy month, obviously there's probably a reason why you're doing it. Is it that you want to learn more about where you're spending your money? Is it that you want to save money? Whatever those goals are, take those into consideration whenever you're writing your rules and be realistic with it. Rules, I think, were the number 1 thing that I could go back to whenever I wanted to purchase something and I could look at my rules list and be like, okay, I said I was not going to buy any home decor this month, so I'm just not going to do it. Having those rules was like a form of accountability to keep me on track with what I wanted. Okay, speaking of being realistic, that is tip number 3. You gotta be realistic. It's really easy to say I'm not going to eat out this month, but when it comes down to it, you find low spots, you're out and about, you're hungry, you want to stop and get fast food. Or your friends invite you to dinner and you're not going to sit there and not order anything at the dinner table just because you said you weren't going to eat out this month. You have to be realistic with what goals you're setting. So if you know you commonly like to eat out, but you want to eat out less, don't go cold turkey and be like, I'm not going to eat out at all. Your better bet is to just try to say, I'm going to eat out twice a week, so you can narrow down how often you're eating out. Being realistic with those goals is totally key, because if you start to put rules into place that are just not gonna be achievable, you're just setting yourself up to fail. So you gotta be realistic. Tip number 4 is to just go week by week. I personally get overwhelmed when I start to think of how long a month is, but when I break it down into a week by week basis, it feels way more manageable. Then by the end of the week, you can realize like, okay, I'm really good about following to these rules, but I'm really bad about sticking to these rules. And you can kind of adjust and go from there, or at least set more time, energy, and focus into the rules you're not so good with sticking with. So then that way, by the end of the month, you're in a much better place. Last but not least is find a way to hold yourself accountable while doing a challenge like this. Rules do help, but it's really easy to say you're gonna do something and then not actually follow through and do it. So if you wanna find accountability by telling a friend that this is what you're doing, asking your family if they can help support you by doing this, or posting videos like me online to share with you guys how this journey is going for me, whatever form of accountability you think you will benefit the most from, do it. If you're trying to do a no-buy month, there's probably a reason why you're doing it. So set these boundaries, set these rules, set these expectations to set you up for success and not set you up to fail. Those are the 5 tips that I found to be the most helpful when it came to continuing and staying strong in my no-buy journey. And honestly, moving forward, I'm gonna keep a lot of my rules that I did for my no-buy and keep with it. Because I realized that spending money on frivolous things at HomeGoods is not going to make me happy. Saving money on those things and spending that on like a new trip somewhere, or even on a home project where we can buy cool wood and do cool built-ins in the house, whatever it might be, is way more worth it to me than just buying a bunch of random trinkety things that I won't find use in 6 months from now. I hope that's helpful. I definitely have found this whole month to be really eye-opening. I'm gonna do another video on things I've learned from my no-buy month and whether or not I feel like a no-buy month even works or if it's worth doing. So if you're interested in that, stick around. I will be posting that soon. And if you're interested in trying a no-buy challenge for yourself, I do have a template. It's based on Notion where you can track all of your rules, your spending. There's a bunch of journaling prompts in there that will help you get the most out of a no-buy or a low-buy spending challenge, journey, week, month, year. So if that's of interest to you, I will link that in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're also doing a no-buy, let me know how that's going. Subscribe for more videos like this. We chat all things mind, body, and planet on this corner of the internet. So I hope you guys stick around to see more videos like this. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!